everybody, to another host session here at the Hewkii and Flammeus show. We're about to just dive in, the two of us this time, no guests, just the two of us, just two dudes discussing some amazing music. This time we're going to be discussing an album that I suggested. Last time it was Helge's turn. This time I just pronounced your name with an American accent, Helge.
Hewkii,
How do you like
this is
that
gonna
one?
it's gonna be like this because we're tuned into our English settings, so we're not gonna bother to switch in between. You know how it goes.
No, no, we're Helgi for reference. Helgi. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but that's the Icelandic L, and then the American L is like like way back in the
Oh,
back of the throat. Helgi.
yeah, we're much harsher with everything. Arrrr.
Arrrr.
Oh,
Anyhow,
arrrr.
so the album we're going to discuss today is one I suggested, as I said, and it's called "The Queen Is Dead" by one of my favorite bands, The Smiths. It's an album that I used to listen to all the time. One of the albums in my dad's vinyl collection that he just had at home. And I remember particularly a time during junior college where I would come home and let us know if anybody listening relates to this, where I just come home for lunch break at college because I was at college in my hometown and I lived 15 minutes away. So I walked home, made myself some French toast, put on a vinyl, and just blasted it because I was the only person in the house at that time. It was like 12, noon. Middle of the day, parents are at work, little brother's at school, so I just get to blast some music and make some French toast. Many times I'd put on a Beatles album, and that's how I got into the Beatles for not it's not the only way I got into the Beatles, but it was a big part of it. And another few albums I would play very regularly on top of just the Beatles, and The Queen Is Dead by The Smiths. It was one of them, and so it's one that I know very intimately. Um, and I'm really excited to hear what you think about it, Helgi, because I understand that you were listening to it for the first time in preparation for this episode.
I
So
I did a few times, and it's good that this time around we gave ourselves, a month to dive into an album, and this seems to be kind of a more optimal way to like because this is kind of getting lost on people these days because everything is so quick. And I remember like talking to my youngest brother some months ago. We were talking about Pink Floyd, and he said something like, it's yeah, I tried listening to them, but I couldn't because they had a minute long ambient intro. And this just shocked me, like, oh my God, it's like, the kids these days, speaking like an old man, you know, like they can't even, you know, sit around for a minute long ambient intro to a song because everything just has to give you the immediate dopamine hit because this is what we're attuned to. I am as well, and I try to be aware of this and kind of, okay, like learn to tap into patience as well. Um, but before I go into the album, was the French toast an integral part of the album enjoying experience? Should I like make some French toast next time I listen to this album?
you'll be more likely to last the 1 minute long ambient intro if you make some French toast and well, if you make some good French toast with some jam, then yeah, you'll have the patience.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. But what was uh interesting to me about this album is that, yes, I listened to the first time around and I was like, yeah, I think this album. It's a cool album. There was nothing kind of particular that stuck out to me too much. But then second, third, fourth round is when it started to hit. And this for me tends to be a pattern for quality music. It's something that you need to take a little bit of time to get intimate with. Um, and this is what I do think is getting lost more these days because people just check on stuff. Ah, this is not my jam, and they just move on to the next thing. And for me, like a true piece of art, a true good album, it's something that um, needs its due time to be digested and, gotten intimate with, if that makes any sense.
Totally, totally. It needs to not, and I would even go so far as to argue that not getting that initial dopamine hit is an integral part of the quality of the music. It doesn't give you, it doesn't, you know, it's a, to make a random sexual allegory here, it doesn't make you come right away. It just it just
Exactly.
really first you're like, what? And then that process is the reason that it sticks around in your awareness for such a long time, that it kind of saves the best for not for last, but it doesn't give it to you straight away, and it gives it to you in such a way that you don't quite understand the quality of it until the third or fourth time listening,
Yeah.
because there's just such a high level of complexity. The first time you're just sent for a loop, like what is even going on. Second time feels a little more cohesive, and just continues getting more cohesive, understandable, and accessible
Yeah,
for each consecutive listen.
and you get more kind of intimate with each song. You notice, oh, this is this song, and then you start to notice, oh, okay, this is what's happening here, and this is what's happening here. All the stuff that you're not able to take in right away. This is why I love uh like progressive music that has like these 20-minute, 30-minute, even 40-minute songs, because there's 40-minute songs I used to listen to when I was like um 12 years old, when I was falling asleep. I would listen to Dream Theater and fall asleep to the 6 degrees of inner turbulence, which is like a 43-minute song. To this day, I can still listen to this song, and there's still meat on the bone because there's so much in there. But if it was like a 2-minute, pop song, I would probably not still be getting any more juice out of it. Um,
Yeah.
so
So let's get into how the Smiths accomplished this exactly on this album. How does it,
yes.
how did that strike you? And do you want to give them a disclaimer about just for anybody who's worried about the way Hewkii is speaking right now? Um, because that it certainly hit me when we started this episode for a second. I was like, dude, are you okay? Do you want to reassure everybody that you're fine?
Yeah. No, I'm feeling good actually. So I have been struggling with sleep for the past few weeks, because I've been connecting with a person who lives in the US on the West Coast, which is very big time difference. So sometimes we tend to hang out. and and by that time it's like 4 to 6 a.m. for me. So like over time my sleep schedule started to kind of adjust to hers. So so, over time, my sleep schedule had been getting more and more whacked out, and which is not the wisest thing to do, but this is sometimes what the universe throws at you. So, I had been struggling with sleep, and I took like a pretty strong sleep medicine last night. So like I woke up, I was like barely able to to keep my balance going out with the dog, you know. Like holy shit, okay, I'm still pretty whacked out. But I'm noticing now, like when I sit down to talk, it's quite cool because sometimes, I mean, this is, podcasting, it's an art form in and of itself. And you kind of get to have to get used to everything you're saying is being recorded, it's put out into the world, which can be kind of a little bit stressful at first, and I kind of had to take some time to adapt to it. But
Same.
in but in this time for me now, being being kind of still half whacked out on the sleep medicine, it makes it a whole lot easier. So honestly,
I
I'm having a great time over here.
It's gonna be a good podcast, even if one
Yeah.
of us sounds like he just came from the dentist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Okay. Just
But
for the disclaimer, I thought people might be wondering that and hoping that you were okay. But yeah, let's get into the album now. How do you feel like the Smiths accomplished this kind of slow dopamine as opposed to the fast dopamine in the music on this album? The Queen is Dead.
it's there's many layers to it. First of all, like one of my favorite bands, like all of my favorite bands that are more vocal centric, they have um a vocalist that has a a certain very unique special quality to
Yeah, like
them,
an
and
X Factor.
very much so. And if you listen to like Nirvana, or for me like System of a Down, Tool, I can think of more, but it's there's just something undeniably them personally unique to each one of those singers.
Yeah.
And I noticed this first of all very much about this album. Like, there's just a very peculiar, unique style to this. What's his name? Morrissey?
Yeah.
His vocals are it's almost comical at times the way he uses his voice. I don't know if it's intentionally comical, but it is funny at times.
What kind of way of using his voice is funny to you?
Let me think. There was one. Big Mouth strikes again, and he does
Big
all
mouth, la da da. Yeah.
yeah, la da da da, like all this stuff.
So good. I
I
love
don't
it.
know. Is it like
I would
done in
never have done
jest?
that. I would never have done that. You're so right. Like it's so original.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so I don't know. Maybe I'm just desensitized because I've been listening to this album since I was very young.
yeah.
So to me, it never felt funny. It always felt just natural. But now thinking about it, like being in the studio, going ahead with that move is pretty ballsy, honestly. It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you really gotta believe in what you're doing to
Yeah,
release
that
that.
one was one of my favorite songs also on the album, but
Ah, it's a banger.
it's that's not the only song. He does this a lot of like across the album, but all these little like quirks and yeah,
Yeah, it's a Morrissey's vocals and also Morrissey's lyrics because the lyrics he writes, he's like a I don't know his story exactly, but he's as I understand it a literature buff, an English literature buff, and
makes
he
sense.
really um this is one song in the album where he's I believe it's called Cemetery Gates and he's it goes, dreaded sunny days, so I'll meet you at the cemetery gates. Keats and Yeats are on your side, and Wild Wild is on mine. He's talking about a friend of his that he used to meet up with, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody in the comments. Um, he's talking about a friend of his, I think a female friend of his that he used to meet up with um, and he's talking about this dreaded sunny day because they're both bookworms and they hate sunny days because then you're supposed to go outside and play. But the two of them, they just meet up at the cemetery gates and they walk around in the cemetery and they talk about literature. And
Okay.
Keats and Yeats are important figures in English literature, and so is Wilde, Oscar Wilde. And Keats and Yeats were her favorite. Oscar Wilde was his. Keats and Yeats are on your side while Wilde is on mine, is what that lyric refers to, I believe. Again, correct me if I'm
Okay.
wrong.
I know Wild, but I don't know the others. I need to up my literature game. I'm a bad reader. Always been like I could never um learn reading notes in music school. I did the bare minimum, but like my
Same.
visual intake is just not the best, but my ears are my strongest, you know, uh, facet, I guess, of my being. So like I listen to audiobooks and stuff, but it's something I'd like to work on for sure.
So maybe, but did you notice, like overall, just the vibe of Morrissey's lyrics on the album? Because
Yeah, yeah, it's very sophisticated. It's just giving like a hint of melodrama, but not taking it into whiny territory. He's kind of walking that line. It's
I think it's
very
pretty
like,
whiny, honestly. I got,
I mean, okay,
I always go like, God damn it,
maybe
Morrissey, cheer
maybe
up.
you've maybe you've not listened to the same emo music I've been exposed to in my teens.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, that's uh, that's maybe a whole new level of whiny, but having been exposed to that growing up, this didn't seem too whiny. It was just for me, it was kind of just like pushing that boundary ever so slightly, but not going all the way into like, oh my God, I'm so like the
I love her. She doesn't love me back.
yeah, yeah. That would
Yeah,
be a lot of the emo stuff of the early 2000s that was
I
around.
I see.
And
He does. Yeah, I think he has the same amount of whininess, but just in a much more sophisticated way linguistically is the way I see it. Like it's super whiny and it's suicidal at times. Like it's incredibly depressing. And because it's so linguistically sophisticated, it's able to hit even harder in how depressing it is, for me at least. Like in some of his there's that song um, oh, mother, I can feel the soil falling over my head. He's talking about it's like I'm being buried already, you know. Oh, mother,
right,
I can feel the soil falling over my head. You see, the sea wants to take me, the knife wants to slit me. Do you think you can help me? It's just like it wants to jump into the sea. Knife's calling him to slit his wrists. I
right,
mean, it's pretty much as whiny and suicidal as it can get, as far as I can tell. Um, and it's
right,
really dark. But because it's so sophisticated and presented in such an original way, not least, through the way he actually uses his singing voice as well, it just hits such a sweet spot for me. And had a very powerful impact on me in the lyrics and vibe that I wanted to convey in my own music because I'm naturally like
right.
a real hopeless romantic as well, just like Morrissey. And
Yeah.
so that was tremendously inspiring to me. I was like, oh man, yes, I feel you, dude. Hit so
Right.
hard when I was 14.
Yeah, it was very interesting for me to listen to this because it's slightly different to what I'm used to. I'm uh I'm like a prog sucker. I really get off on complexity in music. Not so much in jazz, but kind of more rhythmic complexity and a lot of novelty. So kind of I had to adjust my ear to be able to take in music. So at the first listen, it didn't kind of grab me as much. It's like, okay, this is good stuff, but it's not like stimulating me in the same way as like all the crazy guitar stuff and all the
Yeah,
stuff I'm used to, which is a good exercise because I enjoy being exposed to different types of art, different ways of engaging with art. But as I say, like on the second, third, and fourth listen, it's really started to hit for me, and the emotionality of the music started to come through more and started to touch me more. But but it is very vocal centric, and I've noticed so far we have only touched on the vocals, and that's also something that's quite different for me because I'm uh like most of the music I listen to is actually instrumental.
yeah.
I
That's the
don't.
big difference between the two of us. The way I see
Yes.
it. I never listen to instrumental. It is like it's so it needs to be really cool in order to not be boring if it's instrumental to me because
Yeah.
I want the vocals to be in there. I want the expression of a human voice and lyrics. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I've thought about this difference because um it goes back kind of all the way to where I grew up and seeing the music that everybody around me in elementary school was listening to. it was all about the person in the middle. It was all
Yeah.
about, you know, the the front man. It was all about
Guy on the mic. I was
the
always like,
guy on the guy
I
on the
want to be that
mic.
guy. I'm gonna be that guy. That's who I'm
R-
gonna be. That was me.
Right, right. But I was like, this is so stupid because it's like nobody's really caring about the music, how the music is being made. Um, like it's all about this person and how he looks and how he dresses, and everybody's trying to imitate how he dresses, and it's and for me, it struck me as kind of fundamentally egoic,
Yeah.
and and as I grew up, I started to seek for music that was kind of all the way in the opposite direction, dissolving this center point of uh, experience and dissolving it where all the parts have different value and it's not a centralized type thing.
Yeah.
So, for example, in prog music, if you listen to Dream Theater, the vocalist is doing stuff, but he's definitely not uh, necessarily even the front man. He's doing the vocal parts, but then there's like 10 minutes of the show where he just steps off stage and the crazy, amazing musicians are doing their thing. And then he comes back out. And for me,
He literally goes off stage in between.
he goes off stage in between just to
Cool. Wow.
let the musicians do their thing and the
Didn't know.
instrumental musicians do their thing, and it's for me that was more appealing because it's like everybody's involved, everybody has an equal part to play, and it's not about this kind of egoic, you know, this person needs to be the center of attention. um but this is not to throw shade on vocal music, but this was just kind of my journey into exploring the more instrumental
I see,
side.
like, yeah, I see what you're saying, but I have a pushback because, like, the human voice is the oldest instrument in human history,
Right.
and it's really like there. If you play a guitar, sure, you can hear the guitar player. Like, if you're really into music, you're able to tell that's Jimi Hendrix playing just from listening to it, even if I've never heard it before, because I know how Jimi Hendrix sounds. But a casual listener wouldn't be able to tell, you know,
Right.
as far as I can tell. Whereas a vocalist, anybody can tell that's Adele,
Yeah.
anybody.
Right.
Um, and there's something more fundamental about how we relate emotionally to a human voice expressing emotion through a song. So, yeah, like not to take anything away from instrumental music, and I think you raise a great point in saying that we need to avoid being superficial about this and seeing the singer as this kind of caricature that we need to imitate, like Kurt Cobain. Obviously, a lot of people
Yeah.
imitated him. Everybody looked like him in the 90s, apparently,
Yeah.
um, with the shabby hair and the baggy clothes and stuff, and the kind of punk, devil may care attitude. But yeah, just an open-ended thought to throw in there.
It's
Vocals are
it's
very fundamental.
it's a very interesting thing, and I definitely think both are valid, and I do listen to both, especially more recently. But I'm noticing now what's coming up is not to go too off topic with this, but it's a very interesting discussion because what happened for me early on in my musical journey, I don't know if you know a musician called Buckethead.
Ah, sounds familiar. Not
Uh,
sure.
okay, so my introduction to music was Guns N' Roses,
Awesome.
and it just got me off like completely as a teenager. I was like, this is my fucking shit, you know. This is where it's at. And they were working on this 15-year-old project where everybody had left except Axl Rose. And one of the guitarists he had come in uh, fill in the shoes of Slash was Buckethead.
Oh,
So this guy has, a KFC bucket on his head and covers his face with white, kind of creepy white mask where you can't see his face. And nobody still to this day knows what he looks like, apart from the people that have worked with him intimately. I think I became obsessed with this musician,
just reminds you said the KFC bucket. It reminds me of those Axl Rose memes after he got fat. Like,
Yeah.
wings, wings.
Yeah. I remember this. I remember this way back, way back. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, this was like I became obsessed with Buckethead, and I think part of what was appealing about it for me is that this was not about him as a person. This was not about showing off kind of how pretty he was, or people like this kind of in pop music. It's so often not even just about the music. It's about how pretty the person is or how they dress. It's a fashion thing, and I was always very kind of in rebellion against all of that stuff. And for me, it was like this. In this case, it's just about the music. He's not even showing his face, just because my interpretation is he wanted to take that out of the equation.
Yeah.
This was not about him. This was about the music. Um,
Mm.
so that's kind of my journey into the instrumental side of music. And then when it comes to psychedelics, and I've heard this from many other people, um, that people really tend to enjoy instrumental music when it comes to psychedelics
Yeah.
because it's more non it's more non-conceptual. It's because when you're singing about something, you are kind of imposing on the listener a certain narrative or a
Yeah.
certain story or something that you're singing about. But when you're having a
Assuming you're singing lyrics. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So this goes back to the idea of kind of the psychedelic state is kind of translinguistic. It goes
Yeah.
beyond our concepts, our ordinary human concepts. And I've listened to like music, conceptual vocal music on psychedelics too, but my favorite music to listen to um, on psychedelics is music that doesn't have vocals, because then it's just this kind of sonic landscape for me to explore, and it's not kind of imposing any kind of a story on me. So that's
Mhm.
kind of my background from which I am emerging into this music that you were showing to me, and it's kind of I always enjoy going out of my comfort zone and entering into a different state of mind and appreciating music from a different perspective. But it just sometimes takes time to tune out of that. And for me,
Of
it
course.
was like 4 times on the fourth listen. That was when I was like, okay, I'm starting to really dig this music.
So, on the topic of non-vocal music and you being a guitar player, there's a pretty legendary guitarist in this band who's plays around with a lot of alternative tunings to come up with very interesting sounding chord progressions for most of the songs. Did you notice anything that kind of stuck out in terms of that?
I did not pick up on the alternative tunings. Um, but I did enjoy how complementary all the guitar work was to the vocals.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
there was not a lot of flashiness going on, but it was very satisfying.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah, you
Um,
can hear it especially in the beginning of Big Mouth Strikes Again. There's a little guitar intro where he just strums the chords for a couple bars, and then the rest of the band comes in where he goes ding 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 ding
mm.
bum ba ba dum ba dum. And then it immediately comes in with a Big Mouth, no sweetness, sweetness. I was only joking when I said I'd like to smash every tooth in your head. Goes pretty wild with the lyrics on that one. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's Cemetery Gates, the one I mentioned before, has this really, really cool guitar riff that goes and then it goes under the vocals. There's this really cool underlick going on in the guitar as the vocals start with "I dreaded sunny days, so I'll meet you at the cemetery gates," and it's just I've seen a video of Johnny Marr, the guitarist, playing this on an acoustic guitar just on his own in some kind of weird open tuning. I didn't recognize a single one of the chord shapes he played. Um, and it's like there's just so much more in there than you notice. And I think that's goes back to what we discussed at the beginning of this episode, that there's in high quality music, there's so many layers to unpack, and you can't unpack them all in the first listen.
Exactly. And there's so much meat on the bone, as they say.
Yeah.
It's I'll probably listen to it even more times because I do enjoy this music a lot, and I'm noticing this is music that I am enjoying more the more I listen to it. But the funny thing is I've never ever in my life played with alternative tunings.
Me
Mainly
either.
be
Barely.
mainly because I mean I think it's an interesting concept, but the thing is like my goal on the guitar is to become so familiarly intimate with all the little nooks and crannies on the guitar, and I don't really want to confuse myself with alternative tunings. I want to become like I still have this kind of goal in the back of my mind of completely mastering the guitar. It's something that I know I'm never gonna reach because it's not really possible, like complete mastery, but you can reach layers and layers and layers higher. So
Yeah.
this is why I haven't felt compelled to play with alternative tuning, so I don't notice them as much. But maybe that's just like a limitation on myself. That's maybe this is the moment where, the invitation comes in of like, okay,
Maybe, maybe. I mean,
it's
I never knew that he was playing in alternative tunings until I actually looked it up. Like I can't hear it out just from listening to it.
I mean when you say it, I can hear it in my mind.
Hmm.
It's because it sounds different and it sounded fresh. So for sure. One thing that comes up that I really wanted to touch on about the vocals that we missed is um I mean he has a very, very interesting vocal style and just the way he uses his voice, and I don't know if it is humorous or not, but it sounds very funny at times. All the little inflections and you know
Whoa, big mouth. Yeah.
yeah, and like like he does things like
Big
almost
mouth, la da da da, la da da da. Yeah, and
yeah,
he's got the extra synthetic voice in there as well, harmonizing it. It's really
yeah,
very
yeah.
funny.
It's hard to parse if it is satirical at times or not, which maybe is part of the fun. But
I'm really curious to know if anybody relate, because I do not relate with that at all, but maybe someone does.
yeah, yeah, maybe me just coming in from an outside perspective, but
Like, guys, this is fucking silly. What are you doing?
I actually I like we spoke about this with Ed Wynn on the last podcast, is humor in music,
Yeah.
which is for me an integral part of music. If it doesn't have any humor, it's definitely lacks something. Um, but one thing was interesting about his vocal style, and I don't have the musician setting on Zoom, so I can't in real time demonstrate how this works for people that are not musically trained. But he hangs out a lot on the tensions on the notes.
Yeah,
And,
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say that.
and this adds a lot of edginess to the way he sings. Usually he resolves them, but he'll hang out on a nine, he'll hang out on a fourth,
Yeah.
he'll hang out, you know, um, and just
On
very comfortably just hang out there for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
So since I don't have a guitar, maybe you can just demonstrate for the audience just an example of how that works.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is that he specifically really likes to ride melodically the nine on a minor chord because I mean, which is essentially boils down to the same as being the major seven on a major chord. It's like the same kind of dissonance that provides. I hope you can still hear me. I just turned off my up my mic to make sure I got enough gain for this. But the line I was just singing from Big Mouth, let me see. Sweetness, sweetness, I was only joking when I said I'd like to smash every tooth in your head. He just stops on that. He resolves that phrase on the nine.
Yeah, I love the
Head.
nines. I think nines are probably one of my favorite.
Yeah, it's this sound. Head. You can hear in the chord, he's got the minor third. Ba, head. But he's singing the adjacent note to that one. It makes this ba
And
dissonance.
maybe you can like show people how that sounds when you resolve it up to a third or down to the root.
Yeah, so exactly. It's a great topic to discuss. Smash every two. I'm probably not playing this in the right key, just for your information. I got it in D minor just because I intuitively went there this time. Just, but don't worry about it. Smash every tooth in your head. If I go back to the third, or if I go down to the root there, you can just tell that when I stop on the in your head, that note has a lot of tension in it because it's not already in the chord. And if I resolve it down to a note or up to another note that are to be found in the chord itself, it feels like there's less tension. And that particular note, the nine on a minor chord, especially if the seven is not present, if you just got one three, one flat three five, and then nine, just sounds so melancholy. It's a real like hopeless romantic sweet spot, at least for me and for Morrissey apparently as well. Smash every tooth in your head. Just notice the tension on this one, and then I take it down, and the tension's gone. And then it's back, and then I take it up. It's just here that we wanted to go somewhere else. But he just lets it chill over there, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. This is like most for me, most of the magic of melody writing um comes from this kind of tension. You could say all of music is boils down to tension and release.
Yeah,
And
for sure. In all its
uh,
parameters. Yeah.
and yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. Excuse the sleep meds still writhing around in my brain.
You're
It's
doing
it's
good.
not it's not functioning all the way completely.
Even a 50% Hewkii is a very good human being to do a podcast with.
Yeah, I've got enough in the tank, I think. But uh,
Yeah, I mean, I could
but yeah,
continue. I could.
yes, I was just gonna say like, uh what makes, for example, this album kind of more edgy than maybe other albums in the same style is largely due to this kind of hanging out for a while in the tension. Usually he resolves it, but sometimes not. Sometimes he hangs out on the tension. It just makes it just that tad bit more edgy.
Yeah.
Um, so it doesn't sound too kind of regular poppy, but he does a lot of other stuff. He does a lot of kind of the trills like da na 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 da na 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 na, all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
A lot of his phrasing is really unexpected, at least when you're listening to the for the first time. It's really, I mean, what I expect now after 1,000 listens of the albums, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's very, very creative. And so one other thing I want to point out about his vocals is that he allows himself to be off pitch a lot of the time as well. He's like very consistently a few notes on each song are just out of tune.
Yeah, I noticed, and I think that's
And it just adds so much flair to it, in my opinion, if it's done
absolutely, and
in moderation.
imperfection is it's just a nice spice to add to music because when it's too perfect, I personally I can enjoy that sound too. Um, I also get off on you find this a lot in electronic music where things are just completely polished and it just feels like this kind of crystal or diamond that's just completely polished, and I think there can be beauty in that also,
Totally.
but I think it's
That's never been my kind of beauty, personally. My kind of beauty is the raw, imperfect vocal expression kind of beauty. When it comes to music, at least that's my favorite. That's why John Lennon is my favorite singer, because he just
right, right.
I,
I mean, yeah, I see both for sure, and it came for me more um recently to appreciate some more of the imperfections. And I've heard this like related a lot to autism. I don't know. I haven't uh divin or dove. We've
well,
not resolved this distinction yet.
you mean like if you're autistic, you have more difficulty like understanding the charm of imperfection in music.
Yes, and it's
I guess that
and
makes sense.
yeah, and I've also like heard that um for example, autistic people have a harder time to um, understand, for example, irony
Yeah.
or stuff like this. Um, and I think I'm pretty sure I would go look this up yourself, but I'm pretty sure that um, like there's a disproportionate amount of autistic people that are into prog or progressive music,
Mm. Yeah,
and
because it's so well defined.
it's so well defined, but also I've heard it described in the way that essentially all the complexity in the music functions in the brain of people with autism in the same way as stimming does. So for the people that don't know what stimming is that something that autistic people do. You see kind of the hand flappings or playing with textures, physically fiddle.
Like stimulating?
It's basically stimulating, but it can be like through voice, doing stuff or shaking around. There's all those different ways that autistic people and I do think I'm pretty sure I haven't gotten this confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure I have a lot of those aspects to myself. I've always had some kind of uh,
Did you get
fiddle
vaccinated?
with the COVID vaccine.
No, I'm just kidding.
No.
That's why you're autistic. That's why-
Yeah, oh yes, I see. I mean, I did have some vaccinations at some point when I was younger, for sure. So
I had to go. I had to go there. Sorry.
I I would doubt that that is the culprit of that whole
Yeah, no.
situation. But ever since I was young,
Disregard.
I did start to show some symptoms of autism, which makes sense. I'm heavily into progressive music and like complexity in music definitely gets me off, and it kind of um, yeah, it seems to function with me in the same way that when I go fiddle with my hair or when I'm biting my finger. All these little things that I do to kind of stimulate myself. Um, so it's an interesting connection that I would be curious to look more into. I've only heard this spoken about vaguely, but it does make sense to me. Uh,
Yeah, that's interesting because in a way it's almost like music that is less well defined would be even more interesting because because it's less well defined, there's more complexity to it. There's imperfection in it. And but I understand like that the imperfection would be annoying to an autistic person, I suppose, like because part of that is wanting all your ducks to be in a row and all the lines to be straight, etc., etc. Um,
exactly, exactly. I mean, I think the imperfection can come from different areas. For example, when I listen to Dream Theater, everything is super well done, but you could say that there's so much asymmetry, for example, in the rhythm, all the complexity, complex time signatures, all that stuff. Um, I've heard that that provides kind of this same effect of stimming
mm.
for
Yeah,
autistic
interesting.
people.
Interesting. So the Smiths, you would say, are not for autistic people.
Well, maybe I don't think it's that kind of black and white,
Just gotta,
but
you gotta get controversial if you're gonna make it as a podcaster, you know?
right.
You gotta.
No, no, I appreciate definitely diving into these topics, and it's interesting to explore. I would just want to maybe uh, have somebody who has more expertise on the topic to be able to kind of lay this out in a more
Same. That would be really interesting, actually. We could have a
so.
psychologist on here or something.
Yeah, for sure, for
Nice.
sure. Like to connect because this is kind of the intersection we want to explore is music and consciousness and the funny thing about consciousness is that but consciousness encompasses everything so we could we gave ourselves a free pass to basically talk about everything
Yeah.
because
You could cut music out of the undertitle there. It's just consciousness.
it's just consciousness and then all the things that it's an infinite label, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but not to diverge too much from that. We started this, I think, we're talking about the imperfection. But no, I definitely appreciate that in their music, and it's something I would say when I listen to it again, I would want to pay closer attention to um all the other things that are happening, like all the other instrumentation, but it's definitely kind of vocal centric music.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. But it also has a lot of perfection for its time, you know, for being live band music. Like they've definitely, in terms of the bass and the drums and the guitar part, I would say everything is pretty much exactly spot on where it's supposed to be. And then you got the vocals on top of there just going haywire. And I think that contrast is part of what makes it so charming. Because if you listen to perhaps a- an example I can think of, not from this album from the Smiths, from an album called Meat is Murder, which is an
right.
album I've listened to less, but it's a great one as well, and one of my favorites. I think it's the last song in the album. It's called Barbarism Begins at Home, and it's got this really iconic doom ba ba doodly ga ba ga doom ba ga doodly doo doom ga ga doom goom ga doom ga doom doom ga doom ga doodly ga, and it's just got this bass riff and guitar riff and drum groove rolling for like 7 or 8 minutes, never changing, only a couple times. Like the guitar does a few different parts to spice things up and does different harmonizations, but the bass and drums are doing the exact same thing the entire time, with a couple very minor exceptions for the bass. Um, and it's all so precise. Like it's incredibly hard. Like I'm a bass player myself, as many of you may know, and like like it's no joke to try and play this stuff, you know, to try and hold that bass line out, the one he's playing in Barbarism Begins at Home, and hold it out for 8 minutes. Like it's seriously no joke to try and hit all of those notes precisely, um, for such a long time on end. So they were very precise and practiced musicians as well. And then that
Yes.
gets mixed together, like because they're holding it down so well, Morrissey is able to explore more and introduce more
Yes.
imperfection, essentially.
Yeah, because when you have too much imperfection, it just turns into
Yeah, so then it's just whack.
cacophony. Yeah, you need a kind of a delicate balance of those things, I guess. Um, but I think it's so funny that, I've over time I've started to know kind of snobism that appears from both sides of the spectrum. So, from a lot of the more kind of prog or well practiced or classical uh, side of things, you get people that judge all the musicians that are not as proficient or practiced or doing all their things properly.
Yeah.
And then you have on the other side the people that kind of think they're superior because,
Look, I just
like,
want to do it by feeling, man.
yeah, I'm too cool for school, this type of thing. And this just dawned on me. I was watching kind of a clip of Kurt Cobain. Um, People can find this clip of Kurt Cobain talking about people learning music theory, and you could just kind of feel that the snobism kind of oozing from from him when he was talking about this. Like, music theory just gets in the way of
Yeah.
creativity, and like you could feel kind of the superiority of like, no, I like this is just for the nerds or whatever it was.
Yeah, I love that we're talking about this because this is such insane bullshit. It's
Yeah,
like,
but it's you can see it appearing in both sides, and I definitely see just it's like whatever makes you happy as as a musician, you should do that. And I find myself taking value from both Nirvana and punk and progressive music and classical and jazz because for me it all has value in it. And when people it's kind of like with religion, people find their thing and they think it's superior and they want to
yeah.
just kind of
And often it's just related to their strengths going in. You know, if you're an analytical kind of person, you'll find yourself gravitating towards music theory because you feel safer, like me, if you have a structure and a system that describes what's going on. This is how
yeah.
you function. Or you can be the type of person who feels hemmed in by the rules of a system when in fact that system is not there to hem you in. It's there to help you understand this thing that you're making and give you more options to work with, essentially. And music theory does the very opposite of hemming you in. You can hear which side of the fence I'm coming from right
Yeah,
now. But
it it
yeah,
it's there's value in both sides, and I think people get too stuck on either one. But I remember I was working with our mutual friend Ole Kaure. I had a side project called Pixel Dream with him,
he's a great
and I
musician. Check it out.
yeah, he's a good musician for sure.
I
And what
used to
was
be in a band with him as well back in the day, just to let you
yeah, maybe we'll have him on the podcast when he releases his
know.
punk album. But what was interesting is that
I'm
I
down.
had been studying music production for a few years then, and I had already gotten, pretty proficient at it. But he had just started out like for maybe 3 months or something, so he's very new to it.
He's a guitar player originally, for those
Yeah,
unfamiliar,
yeah, like me.
and a very good one at that.
Yeah, and so what was interesting about that dynamic is that he was coming at the music production with this kind of clean slate. He hadn't learned all the mechanisms, so the stuff he was coming up with wasn't like very well mixed. It wasn't like sounding professional enough to be put out there. But what he would do is he would bring me these ideas that I would never have come up with myself because he had this clean slate. He had filled his mind with all these concepts and ideas and structures about how to do things.
Right.
So that gave him this kind of creative freedom to do all sorts of stuff that I would never have thought of because I had studied this for many years, in a very nerdy way. So like all my head was filled with all the stuff that I could do cool stuff with. But then it's like, wow, this guy he's coming at me with all these crazy ideas.
Yeah.
So I definitely see the value in both sides of the spectrum, but the thing is when people get too stuck on either one and they start to judge the other one,
Yeah. And it's not just judging the other one, it's the fact that people usually get stuck on the side at which they are more naturally proficient, and then they
Right.
they become prejudiced about the other one because they're scared of facing their own limitations is usually what happens. It's
Yeah.
people, it's the free spirit hippies just playing, they just need three chords on the guitar. And they're like, I don't know what the fuck these chords are called, and I don't need to know any more chords or how they function because I just want to do it all by feeling, man. And very often, at least in my experience with hippies I've met who have said that, and I'm a hippie myself, I would say, go so far. Um, it's just because they're not very good at analytical thinking. These are people that sucked at math as well, and they've got all sorts of limiting beliefs that say they're not good at analyzing stuff in general. They're not good at compartmentalizing. They're not good at gaining proficiency in organizing information and calling upon that information to find creative solutions. And like that's usually the case in my experience when people say I don't want to learn music theory, it's because you're scared of it,
Yeah.
and it would actually serve you. But there are definitely cases as well, as you say, where it just, or let me say it this way, I can definitely appreciate that argument. Like me knowing music theory as well as I do, like for as much as it has helped me, I've definitely found myself getting stuck in patterns at times, for sure.
Yes.
Um,
It's with any kind of structure, it offers a lot, but if you get too bogged down in it, it becomes a trap.
it's just like taking psychedelics and you forget the labels for everything in your experience, and you're able to, like, it's that old you remember that analogy with the hill that you ski down? It's a very Icelandic analogy for psychedelics. Um, there's a snowy hill, and it's been skied down like 100, 200, 1,000 times, whatever. And there's all kinds of skiing tracks in the hill at this point, and those are the ones that you can take. And imagine that hill is your mind, essentially. And then when you take psychedelics, it's like you've got a clean slate. The snow is all puffy again. All the tracks are gone. I can't remember the English word for snjótrolari, but it's like one of those has come along. It's like one of those big machines that comes up the skiing hill and clears out all the snows and gives it all a fresh reset. And this is the thing that actually happens. So it's a
Not
pretty
a
potent
plower? That's a different thing.
a snow plower, perhaps? I don't know. It's like a big car, big machine. You know what I'm talking about, you English
Yeah.
speakers out there. And basically, you got no more tracks, and you can go now. You can ski anywhere. You can't. You're not limited to the pre decided tracks anymore, or the tracks that just randomly happened to be put in there by people skiing. Because obviously, that's the case with a lot of our own patterning, is that we didn't choose to put it there. It's just there, and now we're acting on it according to our programs, and we don't question it. And then we take psychedelics, and it's like, oh, wait, I don't have to be doing that. Interesting. That's not necessarily something I have to identify with.
Yeah, it's so funny because we just go down these tracks, these predetermined tracks that other people have laid down for us. And then we just start to believe that this is what we are and all we can do.
Yeah,
And there's so much more to us than just changing your belief from, oh, I'm not capable of learning music theory, or I am just this kind of person, I'm just this kind of hippie person who can only do this kind of stuff. Um,
yeah,
it's not necessarily true. You may be kind of naturally inclined to do that, but I often thought about this, I came up with this analogy at some point that, your being or your consciousness is kind of like a set of parameters of knobs that you can turn up or down, and you have your extroversion, introversion knob, you have your all this all this stuff that you can turn up and down. And when you take DMT, you'll turn up the neon color knob. And what happened to me at some point is that I've always been a massive introvert, even though I've trained myself to become more social, partly by doing this.
same, same for
and uh,
me.
and what happened at some point is I took MDMA and I was biking for 4 hours, and then I ended up at a birthday party.
Yeah,
And
got the
and
wildest stories.
and what I noticed when I came to this birthday party was just an entirely different. um, experience from what I was previously used to. So previously I would be kind of guarded off and maybe a little shy to talk to people. In this state, I was just completely open, completely willing to talk to everybody, hug everybody.
Yeah.
I hugged a male friend that I didn't know too much, but we hugged for like 5 minutes, you know, stuff like this. My introversion, extroversion knob just got dialed up from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And this was just an illuminating experience for me to see, like, oh, actually, we aren't this confined as we think we are. We've just gotten used to behaving in a certain way. We're just this character that is a certain way, and this may be our default setting. But we have the capacity, not necessarily through taking any substance, but
It
you
can
know,
help.
it can help. It's one way to do it. It's maybe more, it's the most kind of
But it's
quickly effective way to do it, but it just shows you that this is possible to just change aspects of yourself
yeah.
entirely.
Yeah. I love that you're bringing up that point of having an experience that shows you that you're capable of the opposite, or that you're capable of something that you didn't think you were capable of. Because normally the reason that we stay stuck in the egoic structure that we've already built for ourselves, or that our circumstances and our upbringing have built for ourselves to a large part, is that we just don't have any evidence that we're capable of the contrary, of
Yeah.
behaving in a way that doesn't align with, I was always very bad at math, and I proved that to myself in all the math tests that I took in elementary school. I just sucked at all of them. So I have a lot, by the time you're an adult, you've got a lot of evidence stacked up that you actually are the way that you think you are. But the fact is that you always have the opportunity to grow, and anybody can grow infinitely is my very firm belief. And so even if it is true that some people are born with a bigger propensity for mathematics, and we all have our individual traits as soon as we come into the world, nature plays a part, definitely. Nurture can still play an infinitely bigger part if you want it to. Like you
And,
can, yeah,
even those people who are naturally better at math, their default settings, that particular diameter may just be tuned up ever so slightly for some reason. But there are ways, at least this is what that MDMA experience proved to me, is that that dial can just get turned up at
yeah.
some point.
And it can go up
Uh,
infinitely. That's the
yeah,
wild part.
yeah. It's just there's different ways to do it, but we aren't nearly as confined as we think we are. This is just patterns of habit that we've gotten into.
And it's like, honestly, like that has become my life's mission and my life's work. I've started seeing my life as an artwork where the high points are me having a moment where I do something that I didn't believe was possible for me to do. Because somebody who's
Right.
bad at math actually solving a math problem. Like, funnily enough, people who say they're bad at math can still calculate what they're supposed to get as change at checkout.
Right.
Pretty fast. You'll have people say I suck at math, and it's like, no, I'm supposed to get 39 cents, I only got 38. What's what's going
Right.
on here? And it's like you just proved yourself wrong. So just learning to notice those times when you actually prove one of your limiting beliefs wrong, and just you know let anchor it in. Really appreciate how good and mind blowing it feels to see yourself do something that you did not think yourself capable of doing. It's just there's no bigger kick available to us in this human experience than that, as far as I know so far.
One,
Take it from
one,
me, I'm 27.
100%. I'm gonna jump to the bathroom per usual, and then we'll keep on going.
Sweet. Okay, we're back. Helki, where do you want to take this next?
Well, one thing I forgot to mention about this the Smiths album, it gave me a very peculiar
Peculiar.
peculiar
Per.
gave me a very peculiar vibe.
It's okay. Yeah.
Um, like it gave me a vibe of a dude who is like 17, smoking cigarettes, like goes to the cemeteries to smoke weed uh, amongst the tombstones, is in love with somebody who isn't in love with him back.
Which
Um,
is
it-
secretly a subconscious pattern to keep him in suffering.
yes. And you
Oh no,
know,
this is happening to me, and meanwhile he's doing totally doing it to himself. Yeah. That's
it gave me kind of a vibe of a particular person that I know, uh, multiple. Like these are the types of people that went to the school How in
Oh yeah.
Iceland.
Yeah, it's totally that's a hippie college. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How in Icelandic just translates to the letters MH, which stands for Menntaskólinn við Hamrahlíð, which is a college in Reykjavik, Iceland.
Yeah, and it's kind of where all the hippie weed smoker kids go,
Yeah.
and that didn't make it
We used
in.
to, I went to college in the north of Iceland. Now we get the college jokes out here. All right. Where are we taking this next? I just got to tell this little background because I remember I went to college obviously in my hometown of Akureyri, which is a 5 hours drive north of Reykjavik, which is where MH is to be found. But even as far north as Akureyri, the legends of the weed smoking hippies of MH, they made it all the way to us. And at the time, as a teenager, I did not go in with any drugs. I was a very good boy. Did my schoolwork and kept up with my classes and was very involved in the social life in the at the college stage as well, as we've discussed and might discuss in more detail at some point later, the way we handled college differently, you and I. But I remember there was this inter-college speaking competition essentially. I don't remember what's the English terminology for this. Is where two people go up to the pulpit and they debate. Like it's like a competitive debate essentially between all of Iceland's colleges. And this one time, How came up north to Akureyri to debate the representatives of my college, MA, which is Menntaskólinn á Akureyri, my hometown Akureyri. Um, and we used to call them, like, they went out in the break to smoke some weed, and all of us straight kids up north were just like, what the hell who are these bad kids over here? And they were wearing what we'd call, this was the point I was eventually getting to. We used to say that people who went to that school wore gardínur. What's the give me the translation of that one.
Gardiner, like I feel like it's maybe just
Like window curtains. It was like they were
window. Yeah,
wearing window curtains. It was just kind of like they were, yeah, anyway. Very different vibe. The school I went to was very like you
yeah.
wore.
I wanted to get in there, but I couldn't. There was a lot of, you know, a lot of
I,
demand, not enough supply.
yeah, I think I would have loved it as well, honestly, but I like my time up north.
Yeah, same here, same here. Um, but yeah, that was just a little bit the vibe I got from this album, and it's probably because I think a lot of the people in that sphere were listening to this kind of stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because that was kind of my first impression of listening to this album, just like getting flashbacks from that particular crowd.
Yeah, yeah. And they've got quotes on the wall like, "Oh mother, I can feel the soil falling over my head," and they've got a poster of Morrissey up there. It's
They do?
no, I meant I'm just painting the picture. I'm sure somebody does.
Yeah, yeah, right, right,
It's-
right. Yeah, I see, I see. Thought you were being literal over
no,
here.
no.
Okay, so I mean, I feel like we've kind of covered most of this album, unless there's something more you want to dive into, I wanted to do add like a tiny little extra segment before we close.
Hmm.
Uh, how do you feel? Do you feel like we've kind of
Let me check just the song list for a second if there's anything. The Queen is dead.
I
I'm
particularly enjoyed the last some girls are bigger than others and how the
yeah,
volume kind of fades out and fades in and you feel like you
super
know
weird.
you fucked with your sister. I love this kind of stuff where it's like the music makes you think like you fucked something up with your music listening device.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. They do this in some other songs. Um there's a song on Meat is Murder that does that exact same thing as well, where it fades out and fades back in
Yeah, it's
when you
fun.
think it's over.
It's
Um
fun.
I wouldn't I mean there's so much more to touch on obviously. Like maybe the thing that I regret most not having touched on so far is the songs Frankly Mr. Shankly and Vicar in a Tutu because I feel like those two
Tutu.
very
I love
well
that one.
right, it's such a genius song because it's those two represent the humor in music which we mentioned before. Especially I find Vicar in a Tutu. That's one that I love to play on my live stream concerts. It's just such a fun, like the lyrics, the way they roll off the tongue is nothing. It's almost like rapping an Eminem song, honestly. It's like,
The way he says choo
yeah.
with his British
I
accent.
was minding my business, lifting some lead off the roof of the Holy Name Church. It was worthwhile living a laughable life to set my eyes on the blistering sight of a vicar in a tutu. The way those words roll off the tongue of a vicar in a tutu, of a vicar in a tutu. He's not strange. He just wants to live his life this way. The monkish Monsignor with a head full of plaster said, "My man, get your vile soul dry cleaned." As Rose collects the money in the canister, who comes sliding down the banister? But the vicar in a tutu, he's not strange. He just wants to live his life this way. And
The way he says I
toot,
can't
tutu.
choo. It's beautiful. But I think my favorite of all of them was "There's a Light That Never Goes Out."
Yeah, it's a classic.
Like in a minor setting, going from a 3 to a 7 chord, it catches me every time. But when it's done right, when it's not too blatant, when it's kind of hidden in there, that's my shit.
From a 3 to a 7.
Yeah, in a minor chord, minor scale.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. So an A minor, that would be a C to a G. Right.
In A minor, yes, exactly. It would. Yeah,
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I'm like worried because we wanted this to be applicable for people who are not music nerds. So, but sometimes, you gotta bear with our jargon over here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we do try to keep it accessible, I feel. I feel like we stop and pick stuff apart when something comes up most of the time.
Yeah,
But
for sure, for sure.
if not, then just leave it in the comments.
But I noticed this time around doing like the monthly album thing it's definitely um very valuable to have a month to dive into it because last time we just had kind of a week and a half or something like this or two
And
weeks.
and I was on the road, so I just got through the album about one and a half times.
Yeah, and I gave you like one of my favorite albums, and for me, it was like, of course, it was not gonna penetrate all the way because this is like stuff that has to be appreciated in the right context, probably a few times to really get into it.
Yeah.
But I gave you my least favorite Spangle album though, so uh,
Okay.
just because I wanted to save the best for last.
So I got some more Spangle albums to look forward to in the future.
Yes, but so what I did over here, I took I'm wearing my Hewkii hat over here. We'll leave some links to the merch in the description, but I have my other one over here, and I filled it with all my favorite albums. I cut them out.
Oh.
So for next month, I'm just gonna like wiggle them around in here,
Wait, wait, wait.
and I'm gonna pick one out and see who it is. But I think I'm gonna give myself one veto power if there's something I'm really not feeling in that particular moment.
Fair, but you only get one.
Yes, but I was gonna warn you. So there's like three albums of all my favorite albums. They exist on the extreme end of the metal spectrum. Like I don't want to torture your ears. How open are you to to the craziness?
Whew, well, I mean, let's go. Let's go. Is all I'm gonna say.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. Okay, gonna ride them around, and I'm gonna pick this one. One veto power.
What we got?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, though.
It's a tool.
No, it's Tesseract.
Ah,
And what? Like now I'm debating whether I want to veto this one or not.
if you veto, you can't take it back.
No, no, I'm not gonna take it back. I'm gonna put it back in there. That's a good album, but for another time.
Okay.
It's Gong.
Gong. All right.
Gong.
We were just talking about them on the last episode. Let's go.
Yes. So this thing is it's a trilogy, so I'm not gonna, give you the whole trilogy of three albums unless you're really feeling it. It would just be the first album of the trilogy.
Hmm. Okay, let's go.
Uh
Yeah, my Google Calendar isn't feeling it, even if I am.
yeah, right on, right on. So, okay. So it's gonna be I can't even remember the first name of the album. It's called the Radio Gnome Invisible Trilogy, but I've
Radio Gnome Invisible Trilogy. What on earth?
right on, right on. And there's like lore to this. So I think the first one is Flying Teapot, if
What?
I'm not mistaken.
It's an album?
Yes. So
Okay.
it's let me see. I gotta figure things out over here.
Gong. All right.
So it's kind of on theme
Okay.
because it's we just spoke to Edwin on our last episode,
Hmm.
and he comes from this world or is highly inspired by Gong.
Hmm.
So yeah, we'll find it out. We'll figure it out. I think it's the flying teapot, and basically the theme is, I don't know if you've heard this kind of thought experiment of like the flying teapot in the sky. I think it's sometimes when people say they believe in God, they say, "Oh, you can't disprove there is a God." Well, but you
Right.
can't disprove that there's a flying teapot in the sky.
Hmm.
So I think it comes
Yeah.
from there.
One I heard was Flying Spaghetti Monster, uh,
Yeah, it's
for which there is now a church.
yeah, there is no a church, and I guess this is the church of the flying teapot. But there's a lot of lore around it. It's like these radio gnomes that fly in this flying teapot in the sky, and they emit kind of these vibrations that people can tune into when they're high, so they can receive the signals from the radio gnomes and the flying teapot.
Gotcha.
So so yeah, I think you're gonna dig it. It's kind of Beatles adjacent in some ways, like
Yeah, album is
70s.
very, very Yellow Submarine-esque.
Yeah.
The
So
cover, I mean, the look.
so we'll go for that, and then later on, the other two members of that trilogy may show up, but um, yeah, I think we're good to know. You gotta go.
I think we're good. Yeah, that was the Smiths. The Queen is dead. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week with a new exciting guest on the Hewkii and Flammeus show.
Yes, if I manage to find one. I've been trying, but yes, we're on it. We're on
Otherwise,
it.
you're stuck with the two of us again. No, we got this. We got this.
We're good company, don't worry.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye. See ya.
So, hello everybody. Before you go, just gonna share a single of mine with you. This one's called Deep Down Inside slash When. It's a double single that I released in the weeks and months leading up to the release of my first album, The Yellow. And I was particularly proud of this one at the time it came out. And I still think it's a very good representation of me as an artist, of Flammeus, of and not least of where I was at just emotionally at that time. And I think it's a very fitting double single to end this episode with, since we just discussed the Smiths and Morrissey and how depressing their music is, how depressing the lyrics can be. And I was definitely in that kind of headspace when I wrote this, as you can tell. It kind of tells the... Actually, no, wait. Before I explain this, Hewkii, what did you listen to this a couple times before?
I did listen to this a couple times before. There were a few interesting parts to it.
Yeah.
Both kind of emotionally and musically. I found that you played a lot with the flat fifth. You kind
Yeah.
of usually that note, the devil's note, when you're playing in blues, it's kind of you don't really rest on that note a lot. I don't know if you want to demonstrate it if we have time to do that now, but it's quite unpleasant if you give it too much bass in the mix.
Yeah. It's this one. It's that one. It's used a lot in kind of heavy metal music because it's very, you want everything to sound evil and dissonant.
But the thing is, usually with that note is it's leading somewhere. You touch it a bit, but you
Yeah.
go back. But
You go
what
for a phrase like, there was, and it's really only a replacement for the note a half step above. That's the phrase, but I can change it too, to just make it a little more spicy and bluesy.
it's spicy, but it's very rare that people rest on that note. But I noticed what you did in the first one, Deep Down Inside. You rested quite a bit on that one, and you relied on it for kind of the heaviness.
Yeah.
But then what I noticed is that you just like surprised me with the most heavy Flammeus show, like Flammeus, like damn, he's going hard rock now. I was not
There's a
expecting
drop
this.
in there, yeah.
Yeah. Made it very interesting. It was quite layered, more layered than I expected. You were doing like some vocal fry, like
Yeah.
that's vocal fry. It's actually like a technique in metal music. People turn that into a scream.
Yeah,
It's called
right.
fry screaming. I've never been able to do it, but I noticed that in the background, and I noticed a lot of other layers. And I was like, okay, this is like high quality stuff, which is like seems to be a theme. Like usually when I listen to your stuff, it's like, okay, this is like high quality music over here. Um,
Thanks.
and then you go into when was the other name
Yeah,
of the
when.
one? It's so much lighter, and it almost invoked like imagery for me of like you know, I hope this isn't insulting, but like a Friends intro, like everybody kind of holding hands in slow
Oh
motion.
yeah. This is super happy,
Yeah.
wistful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so, but that was a fun one too. But I'm just curious if there's a reason for the contrast of kind of the heavy, deep down inside, the all that stuff in the first single, and the second one is like, okay, I got all that out of my system. Let's have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to release it as a double single. Like it was my hopeless romantic teenage self. I think I was 16 or 17 when I wrote these two. and I'm 27 now for context. So this was a while ago. And then a couple years after it, we recorded it, and like the idea to put these two songs together into one double single came later. I definitely wrote them. They were very separate ideas. They're not like they didn't come through in one go. And yeah, it made sense to me to put them together like that because deep down inside, like it's like the most obvious musically theoretical representation of darkness and light. You've got the first bit deep down inside, which is an E minor and is very heavy and metal-y almost. And then you got When, which is more poppy, funky, groovy, and happy, and it's an E major. So you got E minor and then you got E major. And the idea was just that I wanted to go fully into the depression, as you say, like climaxing with that crazy long climax part of Deep Down Inside, where I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs. And I did a special like few hour session with my drummer before going into the studio with that. Hafstein Davidsson. It's just an amazing, amazing drummer. I was lucky to work with at the time from my hometown. We all met at our music school back in Akureyri, up in the north of Iceland. And I did a session with him in his garage where we were just figuring out what kind of groove felt good for that climax, because it really had to. I felt like I needed to find something unique for the both of us to be doing to make it sound very just as heavy as possible. And I came up with this bass groove that goes. Really nerding out about this now. I came up with this bass groove that goes. And I just let the bottom note ring out the entire time, and I add the 7 and the octave on top of it.
It's very cool.
Thanks. And then I add an octave on that, and I start going. And then I start taking that up the scale as well, and I go. And I end up here, and I think I missed a couple of the notes, but yeah.
I got some James Bond in there. I think James Bond has appropriated some of those intervals.
Yeah. Yeah, they were definitely mine first. Give them back. Well, anyway, and then just the last thing I wanted to mention is this really fun interlude between the two songs, which is essentially our guitar player Johannes Stefansson, if anybody wants to look him up. Amazing guitar player and amazing sound designer as well. He's gotten more into electronic synthy kind of stuff these days, and we've kind of lost touch musically for a while now, just gone exploring different avenues. But at that time he was still very much an active guitar player. I'm sure he still plays guitar from time to time, but we honestly just haven't kept that much contact. Anyway, he was nerding out like crazy with this big old pedal board. It's a proper guitarist with a big old pedal board, and the interlude is essentially just him pushing buttons on the pedal board. And that was such a funny thing to us at the time because we were, not producing electronic music at all. Like this was all live, and so to have a section on the album which is just a dude pressing buttons. It's really funny. And you can even hear some of the button presses in there because we recorded the amp with a microphone, and some of the button presses from the pedal board actually made it onto the recording.
It's very cool, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was one thing I wanted to mention last, but I forgot what it was, so maybe I think we'll just let it go.
You're gonna remember it tomorrow and be very, very frustrated that you didn't get it in here. But yes, right. let's call it quits for now, and without further ado, enjoy Flammeus's double single from I think 2019 called "Deep Down Inside." When enjoy. See you next week, guys. Mwah.
See ya.
As time flies by, I glance at my wall. I can tell a black dog's pup skipping down. 'Cause yesterday it wasn't so hard to breathe. Yesterday it wasn't so hard to breathe. And now I feel it's deep down inside. Now I feel it's deep down inside. Your pretty face in June or in May, it makes me yearn for all the colors of yesterday. 'Cause yesterday it wasn't so hard to breathe. Yesterday it wasn't so hard to breathe. I see it smile from an empty chair. It glares for a while and it's dead and unfair. Yesterday it wasn't so hard to breathe.
When the storm clouds part and sadness fills my heart, I dream of something new. When the flowers won't bloom in my sorrow's gloom, I like to think of you. When the sun's up high in the summer sky, I hope my feeling's true. A longing strokes my chin, but will it let me in? I need to talk to you. Sweet, sweet morning rose, if just you want me to.